Hello, everyone. You're listening to Unlocking Greatness with Zenja Glass. I have a message specifically for, well, I guess I should say this is for everyone, but I'm in particularly reaching out to business owners, entrepreneurs, those who are trying to get their business off the ground, or, maybe you're trying to write a book or start a program or start a service or what have you. The title of this is going to be, Are You Willing to Change? Are you willing to change? Now, I don't have any notes or anything written down. I always talk in real time with things that's even going on even in my life. So I'm just having a conversation with you all. But inside of my mentorship program, I had a really good meeting with them. I think it was Monday. And I talked to them about you can't pour new wine into old wineskins. And we talked about, I think that passage was, wasn't planning on turning to it. I think that passage was referencing Matthew chapter 9, I think it was. And without going into detail about that, because that's not what this message is all about, but it was a very, very, very good passage to go over with them. And even though that passage was referring, talking about when Jesus was being questioned about fasting, it was really, it stimulated a really good discussion. Yes, it was Matthew 9, and I think it was starting in verse maybe 17 or so. So we talked about that passage, and we talked about, wow, why is it that you can't pour new wine into old wineskins? And we went into detail about how the old wineskins don't have the capacity to expand. It can't hold what's being put into it because it's already worn, it's tired, it's worn out. And so you have to put new wine into new wineskins. So anyway, that was a really, really strong, very good mentorship session we had. Made a lot of major changes with them. And that session was specifically for people seeking personal and professional and business training. But I bring this up to say this. This is my point. Are you willing to change? Are you willing to change? Are you willing to be made anew and make the adjustments that you need to make in your life for the levels that you're trying to get to? There's a passage in Romans chapter 12, and it says, now this passage is in regarding being fully committed to the Lord. But in verse 2, it says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. What does that mean to be transformed? By the renewal of our mind. So this is why I talk so much about mindset development and about personal and professional development. We spend a lot of time reading our Bible and in prayer, and I know that. I know you all do that. I do it as well. I just never knew the importance of my mind being transformed. And that's why I titled this, Are You Willing to Change? Especially for business owners and entrepreneurs. So many messages come to me from people who are pretty much stuck, right? We're trying to get things off the ground, right? We're doing our best, God knows we are, to even try to launch the business or to try to grow it, or even for personal development. Let's say there's an area you want to work on. But we put little effort, and this is what I've noticed at least when I mentor people, we put less effort into the development that we have to have, like a renewing of our mindset. In other words, so what are some of the newer habits and routines we're taking on? What are some of the things that we're learning? How are we growing? Are we even aware of opportunities out there available to us? And I think I did a post a while ago called You Don't Know What You Don't Know. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until it's been presented to you. That's why it's so important to get mentoring, to get coaching. And let me just throw this out there. This is not me trying to sell a mentorship program. Let me make this clear, because you can go to YouTube video and watch all kind of videos on mindset development, personal development, and training. Even if you can't afford to have some sort of a mentor or coach, you can read books. You can watch all kind of videos and get a lot of insight and help. But we have to be willing. We have to even be aware that we need it. I didn't grow up knowing that. I had no idea the importance of developing my mind, of personal and professional development. I didn't even know what that meant. Now, I always knew about spiritual training because, my whole family is in the ministry. My grandpa was a minister, and he practically raised me, right? So everything was always on spiritual development. But I didn't even realize the limitations that I had with other things because I didn't know the importance of my mind being renewed and being trained. That's why the Bible teaches us endure hardship as discipline. And it goes on to say it produces, I think it says, a harvest of righteousness for those who've been trained by it. What are you learning from it? How are you stretching yourself? How you're growing? So I go back to this question is, are you willing to change? Are you willing to change? What if, I was thinking about this the other day, what if the idea or the dream God gave you was the right idea and the right dream, but because you have not been exposed to the type of mindset development training you need, or the type of systems that you need in place, or the types of processes or developments that you need in place, or even, get this, even you've not been exposed because you're not in a circle of people who are like-minded, who've been there and done what you're trying to do. I can't tell you the amount of times this happened, even in my mentorship program, where we have our sessions, because I teach them on, I think it's Mondays and Wednesdays at noon. Mondays for personal and professional development, and on Wednesdays is when I meet with entrepreneurs and business owners. In fact, as soon as I'm done recording this, I'm about to go live into a workshop session with them. But I can't tell you the amount of times in these sessions when they've said to me, Z, if I just would have known I was going to be getting so much out of this, so much information, like you've helped change everything. Like you've opened up new ideas and new thoughts I didn't even think about. And then when you're in a group setting with other like-minded people, you get input from other people. I wish you all can see it, and maybe I'm going to see, can I get their permission to open up just a tiny piece of one of the workshop sessions, just so you all can see transformation in action. When you can see a business owner sitting there feeling down or feeling stuck about something, or someone scared to start their social media, or scared to even launch their company, or maybe they've launched it, but it's going really slow, like there's no real progress with it. But then you being in an environment with other like-minded people, and people who've been there, done that, and inside of my mentorship program, we've got people all the way from, name a place, from, UK, Hawaii, New York, all over the place. So imagine, people coming together and everyone sharing their perspectives. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't even know that option was available to me. Oh, I didn't even know that I could actually create a course or a class or something from my own knowledge and literally have that as a form of passive income for me. Oh, I didn't even consider doing this for my business to bring in a stream of revenue here. Or because this applies to personal development as well, just to be clear. But I didn't even realize I have these limited scarcity mindsets. Or, I didn't even realize I need to put these routines and things in place so that I can get this desired result that I'm looking for. Oh, I didn't realize that I'm still operating as an old wineskin, and I need to be made new, and I need to be transformed in the way that I think. Remember, I did a live training session the other day for those who were able to join, and I had you imagine a stranger coming and standing next to you. Remember, we talked about that. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, just go back maybe 1 or 2 or 3 podcast episodes and you'll see I did a live session. I forget what I called it, but you'll find it. And I said, imagine someone coming and standing next to you, someone who's been there and done that, someone who's won with your hand, and they're not going to hear any negativity from you. None of it. All you're going to do is let them know what's not working well in your life, what's a result that you're not happy with. And I said, I want you to push yourself aside and imagine this person. It could be an expert that again, someone who has won with the cards that you've been dealt. And all you're going to do is present your situation to them and allow that person to stand next to you and allow that person to tell you how they are about to win with the cards you've been dealt. In other words, they see your whole situation. They get it. They've heard everything you have to say. And imagine that person sitting and telling you, here's what I'm about to do. And when I did that exercise, and this is why it's so important, this is why I'm doing this whole talk about, are you willing to change? I have received such a huge response from people, not only in my mentorship program, but all over the place, because I went ahead and did it live on Instagram and TikTok, just to sort of do a little mini version of that. So many responses came in and continue to come in. People saying, my goodness, that really shifted my mindset, Z. Like, I was so stuck in what I thought was possible, but when you kind of forced me to imagine an expert standing next to me, someone who's been there and done that, someone who's figured it out, and I was forced to sort of be silent, and I didn't get to influence this person, and I just had to sit and take notes on what this person was telling me. I mean, literally, they're like, you have no idea the changes I've made already, because part of that challenge was, I said, in the next 24 hours, implement one thing this person has told you, and then I said in the next 7 days. So anyway, you can go back and find that episode and listen to it. The reason I'm reiterating, I'm bringing that back up is that's just one of probably hundreds, if not thousands, of mindset tools and techniques, that you need to be aware of, that you need to be learning so you can know how to get unstuck. But are you aware? And that's why you don't know what you don't know. So you have to, and I'm saying this out of love. I really am. You have to make a decision that, you know what? Outside of my relationship with God, which that should be number one, my Bible study, my prayer life, of course, you got to make sure your family's taken care of. I've got to make sure that I invest in my mindset. Whether I get a coach or a mentor, and I get it. I understand not everyone can afford that, but whether I get a coach or a mentor, or I'm going to be watching videos on this stuff, or I'm going to be reading some books, I have got to make sure that is one of the most important investments that I make in myself. Now, you all have absolutely no idea how I constantly seek out coaches and mentors for myself. I actually have two. I have one for my business. I get with, I think once a week. We get together, and honestly, about 80% of what he tells me, I pretty much know, but it's that extra 10 or 20% that's made a huge difference for me. Huge difference, And then I have another coach that I get with. It's through the state that I'm in. It's a particular program for companies as well. I have a personal mentor that I get with. I actually just had a session the other day with someone who I'm considering to mentor me a little bit more on my automations and my systems and my structure with my company. I'm making some major, major, major scary changes right now, which is kind of leading to why I'm doing this post. Major scary changes where I'm moving things around and I'm getting things more automated, and I'm embracing things that I didn't embrace before. I won't get into all of that, but that'll be a whole nother post regarding, some of the AI technology, some of the systems and automation. I recently, I'm drifting a minute because you guys know I'll drift a second and come back, but I recently put up a course inside of my mentorship program, and it's called, what did I title it? I think I titled it the Top 10 Mistakes Business Owners and Entrepreneurs Make. And then that one of the mistakes I talked about is, my goodness, if you can't walk away from your business for at least, a month, at least a couple of weeks or whatever, you really don't have a business, you have a job. Well, the reason I was able to put that in there, because I'm kind of pushing them to, consider having streams of multiple income, of passive income, and consider your systems and your automation. Consider, anyway, a lot of things. That's a whole nother point, whole nother segment I can probably talk about later. But I bring that up to say it's because I am having a mindset change, and I'm allowing my mind to be renewed, and I'm looking at, man, here's what I've been doing for 31 years of my life. I'm talking about my other company that I run. Wow, there are things I'm still doing that's so archaic that's not working well for me. I've got to transform. And so, but get this, I had to be exposed to systems, to practices, to experts, to people who have been there, done that. And I have to allow myself to be trained by them, And so I had to ask myself, man, am I willing to be transformed? In order to get to the next levels that I believe God has given me, I've got to literally tear down a whole lot of what I had built up through the years and almost do like a restart. Do you know how scary that is? That's why I said in the beginning of this message is for everybody, but I'm really talking to business owners and entrepreneurs, or at least those who are considering starting up something. It's scary, but you don't know what you don't know if you don't invest your time and energy into learning. And again, for some of you who may automatically put a comment, yeah, Z, but I don't have the money to do it. This is not about money. This is really not. We can't use those excuses anymore because there's so much free information out here. Come on. Just Google it. Just go on YouTube. Now, it'll take you longer to learn those things because you got to probably watch a gazillion videos if you can't afford to get a mentor or coach. But we really can't use that as excuses anymore. We have to allow ourselves to be transformed. Now, I'm saying this to you all out of love. This is not me talking down to anyone. I'm trying to help you avoid mistakes I've made for decades, and that's with an S. For decades, because I didn't grow up thinking anything about coaching and mentorship and, counseling and all that kind of stuff, especially when you grew up in poverty like I did, right? That's just something that's not, first of all, it was an expense that wasn't even on the list because groceries was first, right? Making sure the light bills are paid. So I didn't grow up in that environment of understanding that, by God, when my mindset is right, and I've been exposed to the information that I need to be exposed to, oh my God, it changes everything. It leverages everything. I'm going to a conference this Sunday. I'm in an online event next week. I'm now, I know not everyone can do this, but I'm in the process now of booking a flight. So I'm going to be heading to Atlanta for a 2 or 3 day conference that's later on in this year, where they're talking about some other things. I won't get into all of that, but some areas where I feel I fall short in, when it comes to different types of investments and assets and things like that. I won't even get into that, but ways that I can diversify things and be better as a business owner and better in my investments. I won't even get into that. But my point is that I'm always searching out, God, how can I be a little bit better with what you've given me to manage? How can I grow what you've given me? And not in a way of greed. This is not about, oh my goodness, you're just all about money. Well, first of all, if you guys been following me and listen to my podcast, you already know that God is number one in my life, and God is the CEO of my company. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I firmly believe in putting God first in my life, serving and taking care of others and helping others. But I also won't allow myself to be limited with a poverty mindset. But guess what? I had to now, I'm not going to lie to you because I didn't consult with this guy directly, but I've been watching a lot of his YouTube videos. I'm just being honest. But there was a mentor I saw online. I'm like, I'm going to listen to a lot of his videos because he's talking about getting out of this poverty mindset. And actually, I'm kind of searching him out because I think I'm going to find out what his program costs and maybe join it. But the point is, I had to dedicate hours and hours and hours to, wow, there's something wrong with my mindset when it comes to any form of prosperity or wealth or whatever, because I automatically think of all of the sermons I've heard my whole life about, money is the root of evil. Really, the Bible says the love of money is the root of evil. It doesn't say money, it says the love of money. But there's a lot of things in my thinking and the way that I've been raised that I've had to get straight. Because in my mind, I was thinking, and I've been taught to believe it's humble and it's right to basically kind of have little and not have too much, because all those people are worldly and all those people are, not right before God, and it's better to just have just enough to get by, and if I'm pursuing more, for somehow for me, I thought that meant I'm not grateful for what God has given me, or that I'm being greedy, or that I'm being worldly. And so, but get this, I had to get mindset development training from some amazing, Christian mindset, mentors, I guess you can say. And I'll be honest, I was watching videos and just growing in that. And I began to see, wow, this is why I've not really maximized what God has given me, because I've placed limitations on myself. Now, if you've read my book, Necessary, and if you don't have it, I strongly encourage you to go out and get it. There's a whole chapter in my book called Caged Mindset. Very, very strong chapter to read about that. So I'm drifting a little bit, but my point is that, are you willing to change? Or are things going to kind of remain the same? And are you going to stay in that little box that we put ourselves in? I didn't even know I was in a box until I met with different coaches and mentors. I remember years ago when, trying to remember how long ago, I don't know, but I remember years ago when I sought out one of my first business coaches, and my business wasn't going well. Profit was just dropping, and I just, you do the same thing over and over for so many years, you just don't know what you don't know. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous that I'm getting a business coach when my business is not doing well. And I'll be honest with you, she was very, very expensive. I don't even want to say the cost of what she would charge to come in even for a couple hours. But I just remember being exposed to other people or the business owners who always had coaches and mentors or whatever. And small business owners too. I'm not talking people making a ton of money. And I just remember thinking, okay, God, I'm going to be open to whatever it is you're trying to do for me. And I remember even after the first session when she got with me, oh my God, like so many things in my company I changed around and did, from the way I had my meetings to the way I structured my KPIs, which are like, your key performance indicators, I won't get into that, but your metrics and all of that. I just didn't know. There's just some things you don't know. And so even after just that one session, I'm like, oh my God, like this changes everything. It changed the way that I was hiring people. It just changed that. And that was just one session. And I was with her for years, by the way. But the point I'm getting at is that I had to be willing to change, and I had to be willing to say, you know what? I'm going to make this a big priority for me. I've got to be renewed in my mindset and the changing of my thought patterns, my habits, my paradigms. That's a big one, right? What are the things that I'm putting in place that are not right? What are the new things I need to put in place? That's why I had personality tests done. I went and got the Myers-Briggs. I went and got a DISC assessment. I did types of things to figure out who am I, how am I built and who am I? What is my personality type? I didn't even know the personality types. So you get my point? So when I was able to really better assess who I am, and I did the same with my staff and some other people as well, it just changed everything. Now, I know I just totally went left field on you guys. Let me get back to the Word of God, because I went down a whole path of my business. The point is, even now as I speak, I'm in a major, major transition. And don't think for one moment, well, you can afford to do this. This is not about being able to afford to do this or that, because the majority of what I was doing a lot of research online, because at the time I just was doing whatever I can afford to do, which was just free research. And then eventually, by me applying a lot of the advice and things that I learned, I was able to start hiring mentors, which now I have like 2 or 3 different mentors or coaches. So anyway, there's one other passage I want to turn to in Ecclesiastes. So I want you to remember that passage about you can't put new wine into old wineskins. And again, I know that passage was referring about Jesus fasting, but I'm making that applicable in real life that, wow, we want to be made anew. We want to grow, right? We want to prosper in ways, not in worldly ways, but in ways where we can be able to have generational wealth for our family, where we can help others, where we can even serve God even more, right? But are we willing to change? Or are we going to keep doing the same thing day after day, the same kind of routines, and stay in this little box and not even knowing the information out there that we need to know? Anyway, in Ecclesiastes, and as I'm turning to this is reminding me of a conversation I had with one of my own children. He was working forever on a project, probably at least 2 months. I won't go into detail because, I try to keep my kids' lives private, but, he's a little entrepreneur himself and out there doing his thing. And I'm seeing him struggle. I'm seeing him struggle with this. And I want to help, but he want to figure it out and do it himself. And finally, I guess after maybe 2 months and a whole lot of money he was invested into all of this, he finally came to me and he says, okay, Ma, do you know how I can get this built and get this done? Because here's all the things I've done. And I just can't get this working. And it was an online business thing. I won't even go into all that. And it didn't even take me 20 minutes. I don't even think it took 20 minutes of sitting down with me. And I said, son, let Mama show you something, because I done been down so many paths when it comes to businesses. And I sat down, and within probably less than 15 or 20 minutes, I was able to show him this is the proper way that this is done. Here's what you needed to do. Here's the new system and tool you needed to implement to get this e-commerce site up and going. And here's what you need to do. Don't use this service. Here are 3 that are better. And by the way, here's something else that you need to do to make sure this is automated. Just in that little bit of time, he was like, oh my goodness, I've been working on this forever. I said, son, I told you I'm willing to help you if you're willing to come to me and get the help. That's an example. You don't know what you don't know. So he spent 2 months being stuck in that situation. And I sat down with him. I really don't even think it was 15, 20 minutes. And he was pretty much ready to be up and running. You don't know. And the same for me. There are some things I don't know what I don't know until I'm with people who have gone levels higher, who are able to say, you know what? And this just happened to me, by the way. Where someone's looked at my websites, look at everything I'm doing and say, you know what, there's just some things that you really need to get situated here, and we're not talking just your SEO, we're talking about this and that. And they're like, you know what, your automation, what your CRM, what CRM are you working with? Right? So I've had meetings after meetings. Even the day before yesterday, we was at meetings, my staff and I, almost half a day, back to back in meetings with people giving us the input from when they've taken a hard look at my company and my systems and my structure. And you know what? There's a whole lot of stuff. We pretty much are doing a whole new rebuild because so much of it is so archaic and wrong and needs to be redone. You don't know what you don't know, right? So anyway. And I had to be, this is another thing, I have to be open to changing the way that I do things. Open to it. Now you may say, well, see, I don't have a business yet. This really don't relate to me. This relates to any area of your life, baby. Any area of your life. Whether you're trying to lose weight, get in shape, or, even grow closer in your walk with God, whatever it is, you want to be able to get the help that you need, get the advice that you need, have the mindset change that you need so you can embrace the new. One last passage I want to read, and then I'm going to stop talking. You know I love you guys. I can talk all day. In Ecclesiastes chapter 11 and verse 6, it says, sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let not your hands be idle. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both would do equally well. Isn't that an amazing passage? And that's the whole passage about casting your bread upon the waters. You don't know what to succeed, whether this or that. Like half the time, most of us don't know what we're doing, right? We figure it out as we go. But we're not supposed to just sit there and just do the same thing over and over, or every week get more and more, I don't want to use the word depressed, but down about how things are not working. It's not working out for me. When you have someone that, like I did with my son, in 15, 20 minutes can probably save you a couple of months of, running around in circles. And again, I want to be extremely clear on this. This is not me selling a mentorship program. I'm trying to incite something in you to be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Seek out that mindset development changes you need. Expose yourself to new things, baby. I'm not talking about nothing crooked or nothing that you shouldn't be getting yourself into. And please don't go out there getting involved in every little thing you find online with somebody trying to sell you something. But you got to be willing to be changed and transformed. My downtime, my TV is rarely on at my house. In fact, I don't. Other than maybe watching a little bit of the news, anyone who knows me know that I don't turn on my television at all. My radio probably hasn't been turned on in at least 10, 15 years. Anyone can tell you that. When I'm in my car, I'm always listening to something. It's either a sermon, because I listen to a lot of sermons, right? It's either a sermon, or I'm listening to some sort of a mindset coach. I'm listening to some sort of a mentor. I'm listening to, someone on real estate development, because, hey, maybe that's something I want to do in the future with my, to have some investments for my children. I'm always learning something. I'm always doing that. And it's not because, you're just worldly. You're trying. No. I am trying to maximize the time and the resources that God has given me and be a good steward of what he's given me. Because as he blesses me, I'm able, guess what, to have podcasts like this and be able to bless others. I'm able to, I don't know if you all know this, we do quite a bit with helping kids who are victims of human trafficking. I'm able to give and serve in ways that you guys have no idea, things I don't even talk about, such as this little girl's surgery we sponsored just the other year when she needed life-saving surgery to save her life. And I had a talk with my staff and say, you know what, I know things are a little tight for us, but let's sponsor it. There's a lot of things I do behind the scenes you don't know. Well, why? If God is able to, if I'm able to maximize and use the time and resources that God has given me so that I can be able to produce more, guess what? I'm able to give more. I'm able to serve more. You get my point? This is not about worship and money and prosperity gospel and all of that stuff. This is about, no, God has made me a steward. He's given me this mind for a reason. And yes, I'm going to sit and read my Bible and I'm going to pray. But oh my goodness, God also gave me the ability to think, to create, to grow, to thrive. How am I limiting myself? So that's why I'm pushing you all a little bit, that whether you can afford a mentorship or, a coach or a mindset coach or, any type of coaching directly from someone, which I highly recommend if that's something you can do, you want to make sure you're at least searching out resources, videos, books, whatever it is that you can get your hands on, and allow yourself to be exposed to information you don't even know about so that you can grow and be transformed. It has completely, in so many ways, not only transformed my life, but transformed my business and the way that I think, the way that I operate. In fact, this will be the last thing I say on this. I always tell my staff whenever we're trying to do something new, and I have a small crew, by the way. I'm not this large company, just to be clear, but I always tell them we always need to find the king in that category before we go down that road to do it. Let me explain what I mean by that. Maybe I should call this a Let's Talk Business segment. Maybe I'm going to do that because I'm talking a little bit more about business. But what I mean about finding a king in that category is we want to find someone who's done there and been that in terms of what we're trying to do. Right? So like right now, I'm improving my automations and my systems and my flow, my workflow, right? I've got to get a whole new CRM. It's so many things we're changing out. It's unreal. But guess what? We spent the other day, over half the day, interviewing and screening all of these experts, all of these people who have this knowledge. But also, guess what? Because you may say, well, Z, you got the money to do that. No, I also watched a gazillion videos, gazillion social media videos, even finding out about this stuff and finding out what I need. You see what I'm saying? The only reason we're considering getting sort of a coach in that category is we want to cut down on time, because time is something we can't get back. So I hope that this is making sense to you. The question is, are you willing to change? Are you willing to change? Are you willing to allow your mindset to be developed? Are you willing to spend less time on social media, less time in television, less time in radio, less time sitting and worrying, less time doing the same things day in and day out? And put the time and attention to, you know what? Let me find a way to get around like-minded people, even if it's only online. And I've got to sit and watch YouTube videos because I can't afford to do anything, which is totally fine if that's where you need to start. But let me invest in me. Let me invest in my mindset for personal and professional development. Anyway, I love you all. I hope that this has helped. Bye-bye. I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast episode. As always, I welcome you to join my mentorship program. Visit zenjaglass.com. I now have it open again for enrollment, and I hope to see you on the other side. Love you all. Bye-bye.